Up here. It ain't down here. It was never down here like that.
It never came down here.
Hey y'all.
It's my little sister. Good.
I'm gonna tell this shit, so be ready.
Uh-oh. You heard it here first.
In the quiet, golden haze of a Montgomery morning, life on Alabama State University's campus stirred like any other day. Students shuffled between dorms and classes, earbuds in, coffee in hand, caught in the gentle rhythm of college life. But within that ordinary hum of everyday living, something far more devastating was set in motion. Something that would rip through the lives of everyone who knew her and unravel the truth about the man she trusted the most. Her name was Gennia Grimes. To anyone who crossed her path, Gennia wasn't just a student, she was a presence. A 21-year-old criminal justice major, set to graduate with a future brighter than the Alabama sun. A young mother, raising her 9-month-old son with fierce devotion. A proud member of the Honeybees, the university's celebrated dance team, whose performances electrified crowds with joy and energy. She moved with purpose, spoke with clarity, and carried dreams that went far beyond the classroom.
Here you go. 1. Your head should. 2. Ready? And 5. And 6. And 5. 6. Say off. Watch. Hot. Get on. Right hand, God. Yeah, I'm here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Well, I'm still ready, like, trying to go.
Yeah.
What's happening?
It's our 20th anniversary.
Who is-
Everybody coming back.
Who is our?
The Honeybees. The first plus size dance team. I don't got much to say. I gotta go sleep.
And now the Montgomery County, Alabama Sheriff's Office has launched an investigation into the death of Alabama State University student Gennia Grimes.
Grimes was a proud member of the Alabama State University Honeybees dance team. Fox 5's Angelique Proctor joins us from Mays High School.
Law school, advocacy, a life spent making change. But none of that would come to pass. In the early hours of March 27, 2025, the world stopped for Gennia Grimes. She was found in a residence in Pike Road, barely clinging to life, blood soaking into the walls of what should have been a place of safety. She'd been shot in the head, and in that moment, as first responders rushed her broken body to the hospital, a question echoed through the halls of emergency rooms and newsrooms alike. What happened to Gennia Grimes? At her bedside, a man wept. 20-year-old Rogers McLeod Jr., her boyfriend, the father of her child, a former high school football standout, gave statements to police. His voice shook. He said he'd found her that way, that it was an accident, that it had been a mistake. But the facts weren't lining up. Officers listened. Investigators took note. And then they looked deeper. Behind the camera flashes and Instagram posts, behind the staged smiles and filtered images of a young couple raising a child, lay a story no one had told.
Do you think your daughter would kill herself? No. She wouldn't even touch the gun. She was afraid of guns. Criminal analysts have worked diligently over the past week to ensure the truth was exposed, and the suspect was arrested for this terrible crime, end quote. Police have yet to release any further details, including the motive behind the crime.
A story that didn't match the words coming out of Rogers McLeod's mouth. A story that wasn't about an accident. Because what the police discovered, buried in blood spatter and ballistics, wasn't just heartbreak. It was a lie. And as the hours turned into days, the mask began to slip. A quiet knock echoed through the sterile hallway of the Pike Road Sheriff's Office. Inside the dimly lit interview room, Rogers McLeod sat slumped over the table, his hands trembling slightly. His hoodie sleeves pulled low, hiding the bite marks from a restless night. He shifted nervously in the metal chair.
As you all just said earlier, super flexible, you know. She was a honeybee, which is a big girl dance line at ASU, but size.
Offering glances toward the door, unsure if the next person to walk in would be the officer delivering answers or handcuffs. On the other side of the one-way mirror, detectives studied him, his body language. The sweat collects at his brow, the inconsistencies that had piled up since his first account of what had happened inside that house. The weapon had been found. A handgun, clean except for one thing: no fingerprints. Wiped, like someone didn't want it to tell its story. But guns always do. Ballistics traced the path of the bullet that ended Gennia's life, and it told a different story than the one Rogers tried to sell. Trajectory, distance, position. None of it made sense if this was what he claimed. An accident. And Gennia? She wasn't holding the weapon. The angle was wrong. The forensic data whispered something else. That she didn't pull the trigger. That someone else did. That this wasn't a moment of panic. That it was deliberate. Back at the hospital, her mother sat outside the ICU, her hands clasped, her lips moving in a whisper of prayer. Hours passed. Machines beeped in their steady rhythm. Nurses walked by, giving polite nods, each step echoing with tension. Inside, Gennia lay still. And then, silence. Her heartbeat flatlined. The light, the future, the voice of a girl who once danced for thousands, gone. News spread fast. Alabama State was in disbelief. Students gathered in circles, hugging tight, crying softly. Professors paused their lectures. The honeybees canceled rehearsals. The dorm room she once returned to after every show now sat dark and quiet. The community grieved, but something lingered. A question, a doubt, a growing understanding that what had happened wasn't random. That Gennia hadn't lost her life to chance, but to a choice. Rogers kept talking, but his stories shifted. Small things changed. A word here, a pause there. The timeline didn't match up. Neighbors recalled hearing an argument, a thud, a scream, and then nothing. Just silence, followed by sirens. Text messages between Gennia and friends surfaced. Fights, tension, a desire to leave, to move forward without him. She'd been trying to find her voice, to separate herself. He hadn't wanted to let go. One officer read the messages in silence, then scrolled back. One line stood out. "He's trying to control everything I do. It's like I can't breathe around him anymore." That was weeks before the shooting. Then came the autopsy, the entry wound, the absence of gunpowder on her hands, the bruises on her arms. All of it built a case. A quiet, mounting storm of evidence that pulled back the curtain on who really held the gun. That she didn't shoot herself. That the man she once held close. the father of her child, was the only other person in the room. April 4th, just days after Gennia's death, Montgomery County Sheriff's deputies approached Rogers McLeod with a warrant. No fanfare, no dramatic chase, just the slow, deliberate turn of justice. He was charged with capital murder. The news broke across every media outlet in Alabama. Football star arrested. Capital murder charge filed. Community demands answers. Gennia's face appeared on screens, her name written in hashtags, her story told and retold by people who hadn't known her but now felt bound to her memory. A candlelight vigil formed outside her dorm. Friends stood in a circle, holding hands, sharing stories of who she was, what she'd hoped for. Her son, barely able to crawl, now the center of a future changed forever. A GoFundMe was launched for funeral costs for the child who no longer had his mother. Donations poured in, from students, strangers, alumni, a collective outpouring of sorrow. And through it all, Jeannie's name was repeated. Not as a victim, but as a young woman who deserved more. A daughter, a mother, a dreamer, a friend. Her story isn't over. Because when justice knocks, it doesn't always come loudly. Sometimes it arrives in the quiet gathering of evidence, in the steady voice of a detective reviewing camera footage, in the resilience of a mother.
We were like twins.
Authorities tell the family Gennia was riding in a car last week with a friend when a gun went off. Angela says the friend initially told Montgomery County deputies a 21-year-old killed herself. Now deputies tell the family they are working it as a death investigation. The family says they pray the truth will come.
Refusing to let her daughter be forgotten. And sometimes it lives in the voice of a community that says, "We remember,